Right, so I wanted to save this one for next year's Rumble, for 2026 Rumble season, especially with it taking place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, but the Patreon people voted for it next, so thanks everyone on Patreon. Say hi to the thank you Patreon, thanks Patreon. So yeah, my name is Jack the Jobber, this is Very Weird Wrestling, and it's time to take a look at the greatest Royal Rumble. Not just any Royal Rumble, the greatest one. It's not actually that good. Yeah, we're doing the Greatest Royal Rumble in April 2018, the first show in WWE's ever controversial partnership with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's a bit of a super show built around the largest Royal Rumble in company history, with various massive names of past and present elsewhere on the card as well. And I don't know if anyone else feels the same, but I kind of remember this was a bit of a joke at the time. Like online, we were all ready to laugh at what a ridiculous show this was gonna be. And it certainly didn't carry quite as many sinister undertones as Crown Jewel would later on that same year. That certainly doesn't mean, though, that this show was entirely free of controversy. For one thing, no women on the show at all. This is an entirely male card, and the fact it took place just months after the first ever actual Women's Royal Rumble match feels like an extra slap in the face. Also, Sami Zayn didn't go. Sami is of Syrian descent, and at the time, international relations between Syria and Saudi Arabia were in a pretty bad way, although that has since cooled off. So much so, in fact, that Sami is basically transformed into Hulk Hogan now whenever WWE go to Saudi Arabia. Seriously, the guy doesn't lose there. If you're looking for a pick for the upcoming Men's Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, maybe don't look any further than Sami Zayn. He is currently undefeated in broadcasted matches in Saudi Arabia for WWE, and I don't think that looks likely to change anytime soon. I could look like a fool in just a few months' time. Won't that be exciting? On this show, Sami's absence was explained the following Raw, where he claimed that he'd been given vertigo by a delayed vertical suplex from Bobby Lashley, with whom he was feuding at the time. Yes, Sami was a cowardly heel at this point. Greatest Royal Rumble, guys, and I'm not looking forward to it's also a very long event. When you consider that there are 10 matches on this show, and one of them is a 50-man Royal Rumble match, then you've got a pretty hefty card. Somewhere, Tony Khan, I imagine, is nodding his head in approval. No, probably not. In fairness, because of that, most of the matches here are sub 10 minutes, although a couple of them go 15 minutes, and the Rumble itself is 1 hour 20. And yeah, in terms of star quality as well, they really loaded up the card here. There's stipulations and title matches all over the place, but I guess the big question heading into this one was, are any of those titles actually going to change hands? Because this still felt a bit like a non-canon event, almost. But how much of that will be true, and how much of that will be a false? Let's find out. Show opens with a video package / tourism ad for the city of Jeddah, where this event is taking place. Not Riyadh for this one, although I think nearly every single Saudi show takes place in Riyadh. But this one's in Jeddah. The commentary team are so excited to be there. They talk to us about what an amazing and exciting and culturally advanced city Jeddah is. And look at Byron Saxton, he's the most excited. Sports washing. The show opens with a bit of a super mega match, actually. The King of Kings, but not in Saudi Arabia, I promise. Please don't hurt me, Your Excellency. Triple H versus John Cena, who could probably raise a young army to take over any nation in the world if he so wanted, like a Pied Piper, but with rapping instead of piping. I quite like this image of Triple H posing and being ignored by like half the crowd. Kind of sums up the whole event. Lots of stalling to begin, and this very much has a house show kind of feel. Triple H shoves Cena down. Cena shoves Triple H down. Test of strength. Who's got the bigger muscles? Triple H wins the early stages and steals Cena's taunt, and the message here is very apparent for intelligent wrestling fans like you and I. these guys are not going to be taking any unnecessary risks. And who can blame them? Triple H takes control of this one for a while, really grinding Cena down. So methodical, so cerebral. But then Cena makes a comeback, quite unlike him, does his taunt right back. But then Triple H retakes control, does the taunt again. And if I didn't know any better, guys, I think we've got a bona fide taunt-off in the works. Triple H must have so many stored finishes at this point, by the way, because not only does he steal the 5 knucky shuffs, but he also goes for the pedigree, but Cena gets out of it and takes things to the outside. Take it to the floor, take it to the core. Go here. In my notes, I just have in square brackets, start singing Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake, which I did. Back inside, Cena goes for his top rope leg drop, but Triple H catches him in midair and counters into a nice powerbomb, and I'm like, hold on, are they actually trying now? But it only gets 2. Time for a little rest hold, though, as a strike exchange turns into the STF, but then Triple H gets out of it, nails a spine buster, and then once again, it's sleepy time bedtime. Finally, Cena hits the 5-knuckle shuffle and the AA 1-2, but Triple H treats us to a Kurt Angle-style ultra-late kick-out on the stroke of 3. He goes for another AA, does Cena, but Triple H counters it into a pedigree for a near fall of his own. Various finisher attempts are avoided, then we get a rolling exchange of submissions, culminating in Triple H locking in a crossface. I still get uncomfortable when he does that move a little bit. That's just a little confession from me to you. Cena powers out of the submission, hits an AA, slingshots Triple H into the corner, and catches him on the rebound with a second AA to pick up the victory. Hooray for you, John Cena. The day is yours. And what's that above him as he celebrates? Why, yes, it's a steel cage. I said this is a pretty loaded up card. On paper. I must emphasize, it's a stacked card on paper. I cannot emphasize enough how on paper stacked it is. Cena gets on the mic and thanks the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He says what an honor it is to be here and thanks the hosts for, quote, their unmatched hospitality, which extends far beyond this event, which presumably means that he'll be off to his hotel room in a second to dine on some roasted flamingo or something equally opulent. I know, big words like opulent and flamingo and roasted. Anyway, that's the opening match of the show. Just a casual lower card opening match. John Cena versus Triple H. And I have to really commend the effort of both men here to manage to wrestle the match without continuously grinning at how much money they are presumably making. Next up is our first title match of the night. And it's time to play a little game I like to call, what is the likelihood of us seeing a title change right here, right now? It's a catchy title. I'm going to workshop it. And what I mean by this is that the Greatest Royal Rumble took place so soon after WrestleMania, which typically is the start of a whole new cycle of feuds and storylines, and you'd think that WWE would be quite hesitant to meddle with any of that just for this kind of one-off show. Well, not one-off, but it definitely felt a bit like an exhibition event at the time. But despite that, contrary to what we might expect, this event has a boatload of titles on the line, so what's the likelihood of any of them changing hands here? We will see. It's for the Cruiserweight belt, this first one, and this comes shortly after the time when the Cruiserweight division were just entirely kicked off the main roster and confined to the flippy purgatory we know as 205 Live. It's Cedric Alexander, fresh off winning the vacant title in a WrestleMania kickoff match against Mustafa Ali, defending against Kalisto shortly before the formation of the Lucha House Party. And no, my boy Lince Dorado is not on this show. They couldn't find a spot for him on this card, even though, once again, 50-man Royal Rumble. I'm livid. In fact, I'm telling you right now, every single entrant in that 50-man Royal Rumble match, they better be massive, massive superstar names with history and lineage and legacy and all that sort of stuff, just to justify Lince not being one of the 50. They all better be big stars. Wait, who's this guy? Uh-oh. We'll get to that. Right, this match, Cruiserweight title. Let's go. Let's freaking go, you guys. To be fair, it's a good match. It's maybe the best match of the night. Now, obviously, it goes without saying that Cedric and Kalisto are not massive names on the level of Triple H and John Cena, but it warms my heart to see that these lads are not above taunt spamming as well, particularly Kalisto, who gets plenty of lucha chants in early on. Oh, little burp nearly. Did everyone see that? Little burp nearly, but I held it. So Kalisto's very much into the spirit of things, but Cedric's an absolute spoil sport. He's an absolute nerd because he wants to actually work hard and stuff. So suddenly these lads are like flipping out of head scissors, landing on their feet and stuff, and I'm like, oh, not exciting athleticism, not in my wrestling. I think I speak for all of us when I say I wanted a full 5-hour show of pure 80s sports entertainment style stuff and nothing else. Kalisto proves this point by doing an insane vaulting springboard 450 off the middle rope to the outside, and like no one reacts. And I'm like, oh, Kalisto, mate, I feel so bad for him. Maybe try doing this. Cedric does a big dive of his own, then the action moves its way back to the ring, and it starts to kind of gradually escalate once again. It's a very nicely put together match, maybe under different circumstances. Like, these two men are freak athletes. They're elite level, freakish pro wrestlers in terms of just mechanical ability. I'm reminded at this point that Cedric got his WWE contract, didn't he, by having like almost a PWG style super indie work rate match against Kota Ibushi of all people in the Cruiserweight Classic. At this point, they run through like an insane sequence of running head scissors, insane Rob Van Dam style spike bumps on the head and flipping back over, and amazing bumps. Michael Cole's on the announce table just like, yes, this is the pace that Kalisto would have wanted in this match. Michael, help the boys out a little bit, please, mate, you know? They have a really good exchange then on the top rope, ending in a lovely super Spanish fly. And can we just pause and just look at the crowd here, right? The adults are either bored or just almost demonstrably, deliberately not watching, turning their backs on the action. And the children can't even see over the crowd barricade. Won't somebody think of the kids? It's time for the big finish of the match. Kalisto goes for Salida del Sol. Cedric avoids it with a lovely counter, just flinging Kalisto up into the air and catching him on the way back down with an insane lumbar check. And the audience are just like, what are you doing for dinner? Well, I might put something in the microwave, I don't know. And Cedric gets the win. Well done, Cedric. Everybody now, let's all make up for this by saying, well done, Cedric. Yeah, basically match of the night if anybody actually cared about it, but they don't, so it's on to match number 3. Now, we will be seeing new champions crowned here, but I don't think it really counts as a title change because this match is for the vacant Raw Tag Team titles. The belts were vacated after they were won at WrestleMania by Braun Strowman and a child named Nicholas, who had to vacate the title because he had school. That's not a joke for the video. If you were watching at the time, you'll know, and if you weren't, I swear to you, that's what happened at WrestleMania. This match is the team who lost the belts to a child at WrestleMania, The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro, an actually great tag team, taking on the oddball pairing of Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. Well, I say oddball pairing, but if they're both oddballs, it kind of works. It's like how a minus number times a minus number is, you know. I think they work well. Please tell me a minus number times a minus number is a positive. I think it is. It's been a long time since school. The match begins with Cesaro and Matt Hardy, who really do get things back on track with taunt spamming, bar, delete, all that sort of stuff. And then the babyfaces both get in the ring and they, oh, big double taunt, wonderful. Good. I get furious at this point because on commentary, Michael Cole explains that one of these teams, The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus, have just been drafted from Raw over to SmackDown, thereby robbing this title match of about 99% of its suspense. We basically know who's going to win now. Nice book in WWE. The match breaks down. Matt hits the Twist of Fate on Cesaro, but Sheamus gets in and chucks him out the ring. Get out of there, Matt, you little... Well, he's not that... I mean, he's taller than me, so what can I say? Wait, is he? I've met him. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. Jeff definitely was. And Matt's his brother. Matt Hardy's certainly got to be taller than me, right? Yes. Just pick up those names that I've dropped there. Sheamus sets up for the Brogue Kick, but Bray counters with the upside down spider pose thing, which is super effective, freezing Sheamus in his tracks and allowing Bray to hit Sister Abigail. The faces then hit quite a nifty double team finisher and win the belt. Who could have seen that coming? Hooray! Right, well, on we go to match number 4. Let's waste no time. It's Jeff Hardy, the one who's definitely taller than me, versus Jinder Mahal for the United States title. Now, how likely is this belt to change hands? Well, Jeff Hardy beat Jinder for the title shortly before this show, so you could argue not very at all. But maybe Jinder's got a glimmer of hope, being, you know, a former WWE champion as well and everything. Except, hang on, it's the draft getting involved and meddling with things once again, because Jeff has recently been drafted over to SmackDown, while Jinder is still on Raw, where the IC title lives. So, now you might think that this absolutely guarantees a Jeff Hardy victory, because they'd want to keep those secondary titles on separate brands rather than have two on the same one if Jinder wins. And you'd be absolutely correct, yes. The action spills to the floor pretty quickly. Jeff gets on the crowd barricade. These blokes could not be less interested in him being there, and he flies off with a big clothesline. Once we get back inside the ring, Jinder takes control now and grinds Jeff down, and then grinds him down some more, and then grinds him down some more. And if this was like Luthez versus Nick Bockwinkel, we'd all be studying it going, yes, very methodical, yes, indeed. But it's not, so we aren't. Jeff makes his comeback, and then we get the quite infamous moment that you might remember this match for. Jeff heads up top, goes for the Whisper in the Wind, completely misses, and Jinder commits the cardinal sin. Instead of no-selling it because it blatantly didn't connect, someone on the announce team even shouts, "Nobody home!" Jinder stands up straight and takes a back bump from nothing for visually no reason at all. But I don't want to judge Jinder too harshly here because mentally I've put myself in his boots and I would have done exactly the same thing. And then unlike Jinder, I would have burst into tears and tried to go immediately home. But it robs the match of anything it had going for it, and I just want it to be over from this moment. And mercifully, it is pretty soon, with Jeff avoiding the Khallas, hitting the Swanton Bomb, and retaining the US title, as we knew would happen. Next, we get quite a long break between matches now. I think it was for prayer time, which is fair enough. I'm not going to sit here and judge anybody's religion or anything, but what I will say is, couldn't WWE have thought of a better way to fill the time for everybody else watching? Because what we get is a panel with Byron Saxton hosting Jerry Lawler, Booker T, and a visibly disgruntled Jim Ross. Then we get another Saudi tourism video package, and then we head backstage for an interview with, it's Chris Jericho. Chris is here to waste time, which, to be fair, he is very good at and has been throughout his career. That's not a diss, I genuinely mean that Jericho is very good at this sort of role. He just hypes up the Rumble later on, mentions a few other entrants in the match, and gets most excited for Mojo Rawley, which gets a pop out of me. He pretends to get the interviewer's name wrong. It's just classic Y2Japes. Come on! Then another interview, this time with Daniel Bryan, who isn't long back from his amazing return from retirement. Remember that? When Daniel Bryan came back from 3 years away from action, we all thought he'd be gone from inside the ring and we're never going to see Bryan wrestle again. Then he came back and his first major thing to do was to team with Shane McMahon in a tag team match at WrestleMania. Whose idea? Well, it was probably Shane's and Vince's, But what were they thinking? I know I get nepotism or whatever, yeah, fair. Well, not fair, but I understand that's probably the cause of it. But just from a business perspective, how can that be the most logical booking decision to make? Anyway, Bryan does a pretty standard interview here. He says he's going to win the Greatest Royal Rumble, shouts yes a lot, and finally we're off to the next match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. It's Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, the Bludgeon Brothers, defending against the Usos. Now, Harper and Rowan are off the back of a very dominant title win at WrestleMania in a three-way tag team match against not only the Usos, but the New Day as well. So the question here is, can they do the same against just one of those teams in a normal 2-on-2 tag team match? I'm sick of the show already. The champions dominate the opening stages, but the Usos make a very spirited comeback. Jay hits the big splash, but Luke Harper kicks out. Then both Usos go for the double splash, but the heels fight back, hit their big double team finisher, and retain the belt. It's done. I'm proud of us, We did the math. We worked out that, yes, it was very likely they'd probably retain, not only given the wider context of the show, but the fact they were just facing one of their opponents that they beat at WrestleMania instead of two sets of teams, and they did. Good for them, and good for us. We are very intelligent. Well, this might have the vibe of an absolutely hollow shell of an event, but we are rattling through it at quite a fair pace. Once again, a 50-man Royal Rumble's coming up. Next up, it's another one of our quite star-studded matchups, to be fair. This one, a four-way match for the IC belt. I think I'm losing it slightly. Don't worry, next episode's going to be on a WCW pay-per-view, so that's going to be good. It's Seth Rollins defending in a fatal four-way ladder match against The Miz, Finn Balor, and Samoa Joe. How likely is this one going to see a title change? Well, actually, this time it's quite interesting. So Miz was actually the champion when the setup for this one began, before WrestleMania, but then he lost the belt at WrestleMania in a three-way match against Seth and Balor. It was Seth who picked up the win. It was. I'm going to stay confident. It was Seth. Yeah, it was. He had the blue, he came out like one of the White Walkers from Game of Thrones. Now, to be fair, I think this makes this match a little bit less predictable than the other ones on the card so far. We could see a title change here because, you know, Seth won the belt at Mania, but then could lose it straight away. We could have a hot potato kind of situation. Except, draft again, Miz and Joe have already been drafted to SmackDown. And we know now that with Jeff's win, the US title is very much staying on the blue brand. So Seth and Balor could still win. This match is 50% unpredictable. And on this show, I'll take it. Now, I'm expecting this one to begin with four-way taunt spam, but Seth actually wants to win the match, the big loser, and he starts things off with a big double blockbuster and a big dive to the outside. I'm like, yeah, all right, Seth, you teacher's pet, you. You teacher's pet, you, is what I meant to say. Now, this dive actually knocks Balor across the Arabic announce table, and those announcers get a bit of a fright, actually. They're like, whoa, so that's fun. It started off hotter than most matches. But if you've seen many ladder matches before, it's hard to get too excited. I'm not doubting the risks the guys are taking in there or how difficult it is, but it's nothing out of the ordinary for the average viewer of WWE. We get, you know, two guys climb a ladder, but then a third one pushes the ladder over, they topple off, they hit the ropes, whoa! Or like, two guys fight over a ladder, but then a third guy's coming, so they have to work together and ram it into him, you know, it's standard ladder match fare. One bit I do like is Miz proposing an alliance with Joe, who just attacks him straight away. That's, you know, it's hard not to like things that, it's not hard to like very Samoa Joe things. Joe dominates the other three guys for a while before Miz creeps up behind him and hits the skull-crushing finale onto a ladder. Ooh, one that you might call a super finisher. Miz climbs, but Seth goes up with him, but Miz shoves him down and goes, nyah! But then Balor foils this, and we get quite a nice sequence which culminates in Balor hitting a nice coup de grace onto somebody on a ladder. It's the sort of thing that we might well, and have indeed seen, in countless ladder matches before. I think it was The Miz that he hit the coup de grace on. And do you ever think it's weird how desensitized we as wrestling fans get to things that non-wrestling fans would find absolutely spectacular if they saw it for the first time? Like this deluded former reality TV star who thinks he's an A-list celebrity just got absolutely stomped into a ladder by a manically grinning Irishman with 64 abs. And we're just like, whatever. Balor looks like he's got the match in the bag, but then Seth leaps into frame like an emo Spider-Man, steals the title before Balor can get it, and falls off the ladder with the belt in hand. Presumably, as he's falling, he's going... So yeah, this was, again, another contender for match of the night alongside the Cruiserweight title match. Although I think Cedric versus Kalisto was mechanically a bit better, but this ladder match, the crowd were a bit more into, why am I doing serious analysis? This is a show featuring a Royal Rumble match, which has an entrant who I believe has never wrestled before or since. Let's show him again. There he is. Jesus Christ. But more on that later, because now, on a 5-hour show involving a Royal Rumble and 9 other matches, it's time for a talking segment. Thank you, The Wrestling, for this. Say thank you to The Wrestling, everybody. Thanks, The Wrestling. So after a video package detailing the recent WWE tryouts held in Saudi Arabia, we get 4 of the chosen graduates from this tryout, 4 of the selected lucky few in the ring, and one of them might look a little bit familiar. That's right, it's controversial Uruguayan footballer and star of Liverpool, Barcelona and many other top-level clubs, Luis Suarez. What's he doing there? We get introduced to the 4 lads. This one's Nasser, he's part of the C Nation there. We've got Hussein, he is the tallest of the 4. Mansour, who seems to be a little bit too excited. He's not going to make it in this business. And Luis Suarez, as mentioned previously, there he is. A couple of the recruits get some mic time, but they're interrupted by, it's the Daivari brothers waving a big Iranian flag, and it's time for some geopolitical oversimplification. Do you like complex international relations watered down and presented to us as a simple duel between good and evil? Excellent. You'll love pro wrestling from the 1980s, or alternatively, this show from 2018. The Daivaris get monster heat from the crowd as well. Like, I imagine The Miz is behind the curtain cooling down after his match, and he's like, well, I didn't get that level of heat. I did my cocky face and everything. The Daivaris say that these Saudi trialists are nothing, because the best athletes come from the glorious nation of Iran. And the crowd boos so loud, I am genuinely concerned for the Daivari brothers. Arya Daivari shoves Mansour, who shoves him back, and Daivari falls over. Way! Suarez follows up with a kick to Sean Daivari, obviously footballer, of course, and then Nasser hits a big power slam as well, or as they call it in Belfast, a pyre slam. What's the point of that joke? And then finally, the last tryout, Hussein, who kind of moves like a celebrity guest wrestler, like when they get a basketball player in or something, but like in the era before all the celebrity wrestlers were magically like pretty good. He kind of moves like a bad celebrity wrestler. He throws someone out of the ring. It's like, well done, Hussein, you're the tall one. I mean, I feel bad because that's clearly all Hussein was trusted to do in this situation. More than I would be trusted to do for certain. But it's obvious that he is the tallest one and therefore the one probably most valued at this early stage by Vince McMahon. The recruits all celebrate, well, hey, we defeated evil, and that's it. That's the end of the segment. On to the next match for the WWE title, actually. Let's see what's going on in the title picture around this time. It's an interesting one because it's AJ Styles defending against Shinsuke Nakamura. So a bit of background. A couple of years before this, AJ and Shinsuke had an absolute banger of a match at Wrestle Kingdom before both almost immediately leaving New Japan to join WWE. AJ made a quite seismic debut in the 2016 Royal Rumble match and really hit the ground running in WWE, becoming WWE Champion for the first time later on that year. Nakamura's rise was a bit slower, but no less impressive. After a dominant run in NXT, he moved to the main roster, won the 2018 Men's Royal Rumble, and set up a WrestleMania showdown with his old foe AJ, this time for the WWE title, which Styles had recaptured by this point. And that Royal Rumble took place a few months before this show, and I actually remember that was quite an exciting little time. Not only was it the first instance ever of a Women's Royal Rumble match, very, very good, but also both of these Rumbles were won by Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka, which felt unusual but very exciting in WWE. Would this be the start of like a new global dawn for WWE, readily embracing international stars and pushing them not only as heels but as babyfaces as well, which they've never really done that consistently over the course of their history? Then they both lost their title matches at WrestleMania. And what's worse, the men's one, AJ versus Shinsuke, after all the internet hype surrounding this rematch, after their amazing match in New Japan, the bout turned out to be like, okay. It wasn't bad, but that's almost worse than it being comically terrible. Nakamura turned heel after the match, low-blowing AJ and setting up this rematch at the Greatest Royal Rumble, baby. Will there be a title change in this one? Now maybe, because if we count the New Japan match, then they both have one big win apiece on a big pay-per-view, so who knows what's going to happen here. The finish to this one's really disappointing. The match begins as this kind of waiter or butler guy in the crowd walks through carrying what looks like to be a little glass of water on a fancy little tray. Someone's staying hydrated in luxurious fashion. We get a really long grappling sequence for some reason to start this one off, just to really dampen down the crowd, which isn't the sort of crowd that's going to appreciate that sort of thing, maybe even less so than standard stereotypical WWE crowds. They're grappling around and neither man can take control, and Michael Cole's like, who's going to gain the upper hand? Is it going to be AJ or is it going to be Shin? He loves calling Nakamura Shin for some reason. Nakamura beats AJ down on the outside for a bit and then they get back in and AJ retakes control. The crowd are bored. Like they start chanting and waving their hands, doing like the wave and everything, but it's not the sort of fun where they're being encouraged to have fun because they're so excited by the action in the ring. This is like where they're making their own fun. For some reason, WWE decides to acknowledge this, I assume because the live director misread the situation totally. So they show a few shots of the crowd who are like, hey, let's do the wave until this match is over. Really bad understanding of what's going on. They do drag the crowd back into it though, AJ and Shinsuke, to be fair, when the big moves start coming out. Nakamura avoids the Styles Clash, Styles avoids the Kinshasa and rolls Shinsuke very nicely into the Calf Crusher. Go, crush your cut, you better tap out now. They go through quite a nice struggle towards a rope break, which does eventually happen. AJ goes for the phenomenal forearm, but gets kneed. His ribs just get absolutely crushed in midair. It's really good. But at this point, I realise that something unusual is happening. Michael Cole, who's been quite subdued throughout the first half of this match, now is screaming the action at us. I can only imagine that this sudden increase in intensity is because Vince McMahon's like screaming in his ear and as a response to the very subdued crowd. But like, how is the enthusiasm of the announce team going to get the crowd more into it? This made me quite depressed. Like, imagine being a man in your 50s, you've had a long, very loyal career, you've been very successful at what you do, and then this tyrant just screams at you to commentate louder, damn it, and you just do. I don't think I'd have the patience. Although I assume Michael Cole's paycheck teaches you quite a lot of patience, actually. They have a strike exchange, which Styles wins and goes for the forearm again, but Nakamura ducks. AJ almost hits the referee, stops himself, but leaves himself wide open for a yeah in the gentleman's area. Oh no, not there. The ref didn't see it, but AJ avoids a pinfall by grabbing the bottom rope, and we go back to the outside where they tackle each other over the announce table. What's going to happen next? And the ref counts to 10, and it's a double count out. That was really underwhelming. Perhaps even more underwhelming than their WrestleMania match. I find it quite hard to blame the wrestlers, though. They were given very little by the crowd, and so gave very little in return. The brawl continues after the bell. AJ's just kicking Nakamura's ass, so Shinsuke bails to the outside to avoid further punishment. But this is AJ Styles you're dealing with. He's the phenomenal one. He can do anything. So I'm like, what's AJ going to do? What kind of dive are we going to see? And AJ even stands in the ring, looks around at the crowd. You know, like the wrestler thing where they're like, do you really want me to do it, guys? Then he does like a plancha and walks off. I mean, yeah, cool. I mean, cool. Plancha, that's cool, but bit slapdash to me. Felt a bit improv. The feud would continue into the summer, where Styles would win a last man standing match to retain the title, which Shinsuke, sadly, would never go on to win in his career. I mean, he's still active, there's still a chance, but come on now. I'm reading this next bit line for line from his Wikipedia page, by the way. Are you ready? At the event on June 17th, Nakamura failed to win the title, ending their feud. He then suffered a minor injury after a police dog bit his leg. That needs more separation between the two. That sounds like the aftermath of the match, doesn't it? Next up, a match with maybe the weirdest build on the show, which wouldn't have been difficult because most of the other matches have had little to no build, yes, but even on any other pay-per-view, this would have been a particularly weird setup. It's Rusev versus The Undertaker in a casket match, which was then changed for reasons I don't think anybody fully understands, to Chris Jericho versus The Undertaker, and then changed back to Rusev versus The Undertaker. One theory I remember at the time, which I don't think was ever verified, but one theory that I certainly remember, is that Rusev was unhappy about being put into a match that he was definitely going to lose. And who can blame him for being frustrated? Because this was so soon after all his momentum was squandered at WrestleMania. Rusev was so popular with the crowd at this time. Even though he was a heel, everybody wanted him to turn face. It was the whole Rusev Day time. Rusev was in a four-way match at WrestleMania, which everybody expected him to win for the US title. And then he lost to Jinder. Not only that, but he was the one to take the pinfall. It was almost like Vince McMahon was reminding everybody, I don't care who the fan favourite is, I decide who wins and loses. Additionally, when this match, Undertaker versus Rusev, was announced on social media, Rusev responded with this tweet. So I think it's fair to say that, yeah, maybe he wasn't too happy. Then again, Rusev claims that he was initially pulled from this match and replaced with Jericho because he was about to turn face, and WWE didn't want to put Rusev in there in a match where he was going to get so comprehensively beaten and then turn into a babyface. So I get it in theory, I just don't know if I believe it. Then Dave Meltzer reported that Jericho was pulled from the match because he'd informed Vince that he'd be back off to New Japan, where he'd just been wrestling Kenny Omega, now to work another big program with Tetsuya Naito. Presumably Vince didn't want to put Jericho in a big featured match if he was going to be leaving very soon anyway. Apparently, shortly after telling Vince that he'd be going back to Japan, Jericho was informed that he was now being pulled from the match and replaced with Rusev. But rather than being told any sort of logical reason, Jericho was apparently informed that the Saudis had specifically requested that Rusev be put back in the match. And this is a story that Rusev himself has backed up, saying, you know, the Saudi government, the kingdom are all big fans of Rusev. So I don't know what to make of it, but I do find Rusev funny. Regardless, after the little Jericho switcheroo, we've now got the original match back, Rusev versus Undertaker in a casket match. Who's going to win? Place your bets. It's Undertaker, he's going to win. Undertaker gets his big dramatic entrance, and honestly, it might be the best moment of the whole pay-per-view. The crowd are into it, it looks really good with the kind of unique aesthetic of the stadium. Yeah, this might legitimately be the peak of the Greatest Royal Rumble as a pay-per-view show. Said show a bit with pay-per-view show. Just use your normal voice, Jack, don't be shy. They're all ready to go, the bell rings, Taker needs a loose-fitting hat, clearly, and the match gets underway. Taker gets the refs to open the casket on the outside straight away, and Rusev's like, no, I'm not having this. Bails to the outside, starts having a little team talk and stalling with his henchman Aiden English, but Taker chases him down, starts beating his ass, because as we are reminded, he is the best pure striker in all of WWE. You don't need that many gimmicks, Undertaker. You don't need to be a zombie, an undead zombie who's also a cool biker sometimes, and also be the best pure striker just because you wear MMA gloves. The lads in the ring are having a good time at least, because at one point Rusev seems to be openly laughing when Undertaker sets him up for old school, and then later on the outside, once again, Rusev's responding to Taker beating him down by just looking quite happy. Taker throws Rusev into the casket, but Aiden English stops him from closing the lid, so Taker intimidates Aiden English up the ramp. But then, as Taker comes back, Rusev takes him out with a big roundhouse kick. Hi-ya! Rusev locks in the accolade, which I don't think Taker sells properly. He never lifts his head up, but it works, and he's rendered unconscious. Now all Rusev needs to do is roll Taker's unconscious body into the casket. One might say all he needs to do is keep rolling. Yeah! But Taker's not done. He brings himself back to life like Evanescence and hits Rusev with a chokeslam. Rusev gets thrown into the casket. Aiden English is back. He launches a desperation attack on Undertaker, who grabs him, hits a chokeslam, a tombstone, throws Aiden English into the casket as well. Both heels are in the casket. The lid closes. Taker wins. Hooray for you, dead man. You've done it once again. Now I know you'll be loving it. L-I-M-P. People in the house. Taker gets an almighty fireworks display to celebrate winning a 9-minute match with about 6 minutes of action, and it's time for the second last bout of the night. Although the main event is, of course, the Greatest Royal Rumble, so we've still got a way to go. So, it's Universal Champion Brock Lesnar taking on Roman Reigns in a steel cage match with escape rules turned on. This is a few weeks after Lesnar battered Roman in the main event of WrestleMania 34, a match which I think most people kind of wanted Roman to win, just as like a lesser of two evils situation, so at least we had a Universal Champion who was around for most of the shows. It was an uninspiring WrestleMania main event with a shock finish, and not in a satisfying way. And we're running it back now. The match begins in typical latter-day Brock Lesnar match fashion. He hits a bunch of German suplexes and a big old F5. Brock goes for another F5, but Roman escapes up into the sky and tries to escape the cage, but Brock stops him before he can, oh no. The match continues, and we get some textbook side watching from Samoa Joe backstage on a monitor. He was about to have a quite short and unsuccessful feud with Roman around this time. Roman gets back on top though and hits a few spears, and it feels like we're very much in the closing stages of this match, even though it hasn't really been going on very long at all. Roman tries to escape out the door. Boring. And Paul Heyman agrees. He's Lesnar's manager, remember, at this time, not Roman's, and he slams the door in Roman's face, and he's like, "You carry on that match, young sir." Now, because of the door being slammed in his face, Roman rebounds back into the ring where he's met with another F5, but he kicks out at 2, so Heyman slides Lesnar a chair, but when Lesnar goes to use it, Roman hits a spear. These two titans, these two men. Brock escapes to the apron, but Roman sets him up for a final spear, and when he hits it, the cage wall breaks and they fly to the outside. Now, 3 things to note here. Number 1, the match is over and Brock retains the belt. He is announced as the winner and Paul Heyman's really pleased. Look at him, so happy. Number 2, it's inconclusive who really hits the floor first. I think there's a decent argument to be made that it's actually Roman, but I think they want us to maybe consider that some of Brock's fleshy flesh was fleshing through the mesh of the cage panel. The old flesh mesh finish, of course, classic. And number 3, it's a really bad landing for Roman. Look at the state of that. I'm genuinely surprised he was okay. The announce team get really awkward when the replay is shown, trying to argue that Brock won, but I think the replay makes it look even more like Roman probably hit first, but I don't have the energy to argue with them anymore. They're wrong, we are right, but who cares, okay? Let's just leave it. And that's because we need to save our energy, because the next match is the 50-man Greatest Royal Rumble! Come on! The wrestling, it never stops. So yeah, we know what a Rumble is, but there are 2 differences here. Well, as mentioned, first of all, it's very bloated. There's 50 entrants instead of 30, but also, it's kind of more of an exhibition feel. That's because since, 1993, with a couple of special exceptions here or there, the Royal Rumble winner has been given a title shot at the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania. Now, of course, in this match, that's not going to happen. so we don't have that grand prize to add to our viewing enjoyment. What we have instead is 2 prizes, guys. The winner receives a comically large trophy, one which I can't believe they got back to the US easily, and also I believe was broken on TV very shortly after this event, probably by accident, so they don't have to show it anymore and keep carting it around from town to town. And the second prize is the Greatest Royal Rumble Championship. Ooh. Now, once again, I'm quoting from Wikipedia. The events page explains that although WWE.com had originally listed, I'll not say the name, but the winner of this match as the Greatest Royal Rumble champion after the event, he never appeared with the belt at any other event, and the title was never mentioned again. Brilliant. So that's what's at stake here. But there's another thing at stake too. Records are at stake. A couple of very noteworthy Royal Rumble records are broken here, and I'll point those out afterwards. And we all kind of feel iffy about them, don't we? Because we all, well, I certainly do. I'm sure many of you, we all have a deep, intense love of statistics and the integrity of said statistics. Now, the fact that this Rumble is responsible for 2 major Rumble records is a point of contention because it doesn't feel like a proper Rumble, you know? But we'll deal with that. Well, we'll not deal with it. There's no solution. But we'll talk about it after, because now it's time to get on with the match. Entrant number 1 is Daniel Bryan, one of the GOATs, of course. Hey, maybe this really is going to be the Greatest Royal Rumble after all. Number 2 is Dolph Ziggler. It feels very much like they've gone for 2 wrestlers who can go long. And indeed, that seems to be the case when there is no quick elimination and they kind of grapple around. Number 3 is Sin Cara, the later Hunico version, not Mystico. And his job is to hit the ring, do a few moves, and be the first elimination at the hands of Dolph Ziggler. Decent payday for the lad, you have to say. Number 4 is Curtis Axel. He was a member of the Miz Taraj around this time. Remember that? No? And he is quickly eliminated by our first special entrant of the match. Fresh off being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, Mark Henry. Fair. Exciting. Number 6. This is the greatest love I've ever... I really thought I was... a panic like a horse approaching a jump that it knows it can't quite complete. It's Mike Kanellis! This is the greatest love I ever know. Bottled it a little bit. I went an octave lower. That's not fair. Can't do that. It's Mike Kanellis. Mike's a weird one to have in this Rumble. I personally would have had someone like Lindsay Dorado or something, because Mike's whole gimmick is being really in love with his wife, Maria Kanellis. But Maria's not on this show because, as explained, no women on this show at all. So Mike gets in the ring and gets eliminated straight away in like 3 seconds. So what's the point? Cole on commentary gets really excited about the fact that this might be the quickest elimination in Rumble history, which makes me think they really wanted it to be, but thankfully it's not quite quick enough to beat Santino Marella in, I believe, 2009. The next entrant, hold on to your hats, everybody. It's the people's champion himself, Hiroki Sumi. You know, we all know Hiroki. Yeah, obviously this was baffling at the time. I remember everybody was like, who? What on earth? And I think what made it worse is that the announce team act like they're in some sort of alternative universe where Sumi's a big star that we all know. Cole's even like, I heard rumors all week that Hiroki Sumi was going to be in this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Who is this man? Well, unless you follow sumo wrestling, because that's who Hiroki Sumi is. He's a sumo wrestler of some renown. I believe on cagematch.net they explain that this was not only his pro wrestling debut, but also his last wrestling match too. Unless he goes on to have one after this video, which, oh my god, can you imagine? Apparently, the story behind Sumi's involvement, or the rumoured story anyway, is mad. Now, allegedly, the Saudis really wanted Yokozuna involved because I guess nothing in wrestling has happened since the 90s, but they were unaware that he passed away in the year 2000. So to make up for that, WWE get Hiroki on the phone, mate. He's a wrestler, just not the right type of wrestling. Let's see how he does. Hiroki Sumi then gets in the ring, squares off with Mark Henry, and he's a big lad at least. We can see he's visually very impressive. Henry grabs him and very slowly just sort of hefts him over the top rope to the floor, and that is Hiroki Sumi's involvement in the Greatest Royal Rumble, told in its entirety. He does play some sort of role in proceedings in a butterfly effect sort of way, though, because with Henry's back turned, he is quickly eliminated by Ziggler and Bryan. If it weren't for Hiroki Sumi, then Mark Henry might have won this whole damn match. Imagine how different the universe would look now if Henry had won the Greatest Royal. Probably not that different. Next up, it's Victor of the Ascension sprinting down to the ring, dressed in green and black. He's having a brat summer, I believe, but he doesn't last very long and gets quickly eliminated. Kofi Kingston is out next, and he just kind of joins Bryan and Ziggler, and then he's followed by the premier athlete, Tony Nese, and there's no more eliminations for a bit. Things begin to settle down into maybe more of a standard, kind of typical Royal Rumble match format, which I find sludgy and boring, and I really wish they would experiment with the format a little bit more, but maybe that's another video for another time, perhaps. Number 11 is Dash Wilder. That feels weird to say. His new ring name has definitely eclipsed the old one in my mind by this point, and he is quickly followed by our next surprise entrant, Hornswoggle. Way, go on, mate. Met him as well, so, you know. Whatever. This is a surprise entrant because Hornswoggle wasn't with WWE at this time, but just kind of made this special one-off appearance. And honestly, he gets one of the bigger reactions of the match. He immediately helps Bryan eliminate Dash and then starts running wild kind of with a Samoan drop to Kofi Kingston. Hornswoggle ends up on the apron biting Ziggler's fingers, but then Tony Nese runs in and ends things with the running Nese. That's his name, don't laugh. That's his real finisher name, and Hornswoggle is out of there. Next up, we get Primo Cologne out to approximately zero reaction, which is kind of sad, followed by Xavier Woods, who of course starts to help his partner Kofi. Speaking of which, it's now about time to have a look at Kofi's signature crazy escape from elimination spot, as he does in many Royal Rumbles. What crazy hijinks will we see this time? So he ends up in like a piggyback position on Woods' back on the apron. Woods teeters, almost falls, and then doesn't fall. That's sort of it. Tony Nese then starts to dance with the New Day because for some reason the Royal Rumble really inspires a lot of dancing. Has anybody noticed this? It happens quite a lot. The New Day, of course, eliminate Tony for wanting to get down with them, and then Bo Dallas is the next entrant. Slow down, Bo, let the cameras see you. Wow. Fast as lightning. He's not the fastest entrant though, but that's coming up, and if you know, you know. Number 16, and it's a big pop for our Olympic hero Kurt Angle, who wastes very little time eliminating Bo Dallas, Primo, and even potential Iron Man Dolph Ziggler, with Woods getting right in the way of the spot. Move, Woods, move. Next up is Dawson of Dash and Dawson. Can Dawson do better than Dash did? Yeah, he lasts about like 10 minutes longer, actually. It's not all suspense on this channel, right? I need a break sometimes. I'm not Alfred Hitchcock. Number 18 is Goldust. Always nice to see him back, but to my surprise, he was still a regular roster member at this time. Like, it's not a big shock entrant at all. He was in the real, actual Royal Rumble a few months before this. Sorry, not real Royal Rumble. Less great Royal Rumble. Victor's tag partner, Connor, is next, also of the Ascension. He is not having a brat summer, however. Nothing happens for a bit, and then I think Xavier Woods tries to have a legitimate shoot attempt at taking down Kurt Angle. Now, Woods has an amateur wrestling background, a very good one apparently, a collegiate level, you know. Kurt Angle's an Olympic, lest we forget, an Olympic gold medalist. Although actually, could, because obviously Angle's a bit older, not in the best, you know, he's had a lot of injuries and stuff. Is it a surprise that he stuffs Woods' takedown attempt here? I don't know enough about amateur wrestling. I assume Woods took it easy, maybe? I don't know. Let me know in that comment section. And like the video as well, please. Please. Next up, it's time to walk with Elias. Now, Elias was kind of flying high around this time. Yes, he had just been kind of humiliated by John Cena at WrestleMania, but that's a featured spot on the show, isn't it? With a big name. And he has a good showing here as well. WWE were very much clearly behind him at this point. Quite a nice moment now, actually, as Elias starts to sing his typical sort of song, and then it's a fake out because he runs in and chucks out 3 guys at once, both New Day members and Connor as well, I think. Elias running wild. Luke Gallows is next, and then Bryan and Angle decide to have quite a legitimately fun exchange in the middle of everything. which Elias ruins by eliminating Kurt. And I'm like, oh yeah, they were really behind Elias at this point. Now the entrances are coming quite thick and fast. First we got Rhino, followed by Drew Gulak, and then our first NXT entrant of the show, Tucker. Remember Tucker? Heavy Machinery. No Otis though in this match. For reasons unclear. If anybody knows, again, just pop a, down. He pretty quickly takes care of Gulak, actually, and now it's time to get glorious. No, I won't give in. I won't give in. It's always, the appeal of that song is never ending. Yeah, it's Bob Roode, innit? Oh my God, he's only entry 25. We're only halfway through. Roode runs wild for a bit, getting a couple of eliminations, and then he is joined by Fandango, who sadly is not in fancy attire, despite this being the era of the fashion police. I want to see him as a policeman or a sailor or a pilot or something. God, what a tag. I really actually missed non-ironically, really missed the fashion police. He is followed by Chad Gable and then surprise entrant Rey Mysterio, who of course gets a big reaction. 2018 was quite a weird year for Rey Mysterio, actually. He wasn't signed officially to WWE, but did take part in both Royal Rumbles that year, both Greatest and Normal, before heading over to New Japan to take part in the Dominion pay-per-view, and then, of course, appearing at All In, the indie mega super show that acted as a precursor to AEW as a promotion. But Rey wouldn't be part of that, because then he just rejoined WWE really soon after All In, actually. It was a busy schedule for our boy Ray. Ray eliminates Luke Gallows. Sadly, that is Ray's only elimination of the night, but I understand why, because we have to leave some for the real stars. Speaking of which, next is Mojo Rawley. Come on. Mojo is a wrecking ball, easily dealing with Fandango, who whines to his tag partner Tyler Breeze, who's making his way into the match, and then Mojo easily deals with Tyler as well. This could be Mojo's Rumble to win. Actually, well, I was joking there, but that's a good point. It could have been Mojo's Rumble to win, or anyone's. Because if you think about it, with this Rumble existing kind of outside, slightly outside at least, the normal boundaries of WWE storytelling, they could have had like whoever they wanted win this match. They could have had Hiroki Sumi win. Next up, Jeddah! Don't you dare be sour. And as Big E makes his entrance proclamation, let's take a quick look at some of the crowd shots WWE decided to use at this point. They just look baffled. Big E comes in and eliminates Tucky, Carl Anderson comes in and eliminates nobody, and Apollo Crews comes in and eliminates Gable. I'm sorry for racing through that there, but this part of the match is really dragging. I'm starting to think maybe 50 entries is a tad too much. Our next NXT entrant is up next, and it's Roddy Strong. Obviously very talented, very, very good. I just struggle to understand, much like Tucker but no Otis, I struggle to understand why Roddy was picked ahead of various, I guess, different members of the NXT roster, particularly in his own stable. I'm talking about him, of course I am. Baby. But still, Roddy's in and eliminates Rhino with a yumping knee. Next up, it's the man you will have seen on the thumbnail of this very video, proving why he finished 5th in the voting for the 2018 Ballon d'Or. Yes, it's the Viper, Randall Keith Orton. Apollo Crews makes the classic error of doing a flying, leaping, no move to Randy Orton, who drops him with a mid-air RKO, eliminates Crews, eliminates Anderson, eliminates someone else as well. Mojo. It was Mojo. I'm sleepy. I'm so sorry. Next up is Heath Slater. Haha, just kidding. It's only the camera angle. And next up after him is a man named Babatunde. So yeah, Babatunde, very, very large, very imposing, good for a Rumble match, one might say. If anyone knew who he is. It's Hiroki Sumi Part 2, lads. Well, we know who he is now, but at this time, I don't think we did. Although Babatunde technically was an NXT contracted superstar at this point, I believe this was his broadcasted debut. And once again, I remember everyone was just very confused while the announce team are like, watch out for Babatunde, everybody. He's going to pack a punch in this Rumble. Shut up, boys. Help us. Babatunde would have a kind of weird time after this, struggling and stalling a bit in NXT, then reappearing as Dabba-Kato on Raw Underground. God, remember Raw Underground. And then reappearing again as Commander Aziz to help Apollo Crews beat Big E at WrestleMania 37. Just a weird time all round. I I mean, I don't know how good he was really, but I also don't think he was helped by the booking. And this match is a quite good example of that. He comes in, big, imposing guy and everything, doesn't get a single elimination. How are we meant to get invested? Bazza Corbin's in. Go on, Baz, get involved. He hits a very quick deep 6 on Rey Mysterio. Probably the best single spot of the match. That's it, I'm afraid. Corbin swiftly takes care of Rude and Roddy. And our next entrant is coming up now. It's Titus O'Neil, everybody. I think you know what's coming up next. Titus comes out. Lovely to see him. Hurrah, hurrah. Runs down to the ring. Now, this is what happens in real time. The camera cuts back to the wide shot of the ring. Then we cut back to ringside. Suddenly, the announce team are in hysterics. We don't know why. And the first thing we see, by way of explanation, is this image. Michael Cole is like really, really laughing at whatever's happened. And I imagine he heard Vince laughing first in his headset, so he knew he was allowed to laugh as well. But he's really going for it. And I think Vince does indeed find it funny as well, because we are shown several replays. So we see as Titus is running down the ramp to make his entrance, he does unfortunately trip and fall under the ring apron. And while I'm very glad that he was okay and that he escaped injury, which could very easily have happened, unfortunately also, I do have to admit, it is very funny. I mean, it's easy to see why this has gone down in history as an all-time wrestling botch. It's like the modern-day equivalent of the Shockmaster moment. But something about Michael, and I do find it funny, but something about Michael Cole's reaction specifically really rubs me the wrong way. I don't know if it's maybe because Titus could eat Michael if he wanted to, with ease. Or with chips, probably. And if things couldn't get any more thrilling, next we have our next entrant, Dan Mather, or Dan Mather. Sorry, I'm not certain. It's our third Who TF is this moment of the Rumble. Dan's another NXT trainee, another one making an unlikely debut here, and would only go on, I believe, to have 2 further matches, both on the NXT UK brand, and that was it. So, once again, I don't understand. If you know, or if you are Dan watching this, please solve this mystery. They actually give him some offense as well on Rey Mysterio of all people, but it's completely overshadowed by more replays of the Titus moment, so what was the point? Next up, time to get serious now, because it's time for Braun Strowman, who has a big boy stare down with Babatunde, and then just sort of goes, "Yep, you're done," shoves him over the top rope. That's the end of Babatunde's involvement. Dan Mather's gone next as well at the hands of Strowman, and I can't believe that Strowman's eliminating all these like legendary Pokemon. And then he throws out, I think, Big E as well, and then Heath goes too, caught by everyone on the outside, and Braun Strowman's running wild. Ty Dillinger is in next, and he joins a big crowd that has amassed, trying to all gang up and eliminate Braun. But Braun obviously does the classic spot, the brah, and then everyone bursts away from him, and Braun eliminates not only Ty, but Titus O'Neil as well. Cole obviously loves this because it's an opportunity to say something else about Titus O'Neil's botch. So I think he shouts, "Go back under the ring, Titus, why don't you?" And I think I've nailed in my head why I find Cole's glee so particularly annoying. I think it's because he doesn't say anything clever or witty. He just says the first thing that comes to mind. Probably so he can be the first one to impress Vince McMahon before anybody else can. I've really gone after Michael in this episode, haven't I? I'm sorry, Michael. No, I'm not. No, I'm not actually. He's been really mean in this episode, in this pay-per-view. I stand by it, you know? Hurrah. My wrist clicked when I did that. Did you hear that? I hope not. We are finally into the end game of this Rumble now, but not all the entrants have come out yet, but it still starts to feel like the final stretch as Corbin eliminates Mysterio, but then he's eliminated by Orton, and then Orton's eliminated by Elias. What? They really were pushing him, weren't they? And I don't disagree with them pushing him, actually. He had a great gimmick at the time. Certainly better than shaving his face and pretending to be his own relative, which still annoys me. And I know people go, "Yeah, but it was funny, wasn't it?" No, it wasn't. It wasn't funny, right? It was only funny because Kevin Owens put it over quite well. But apart from that, no, it was a complete flop. It ruined Elias's momentum. I will never get on board with the Ezekiel gimmick, ever, ever. And that's that. Kevin Owens did a good job. Kurt Hawkins is next. I think probably still doing his losing streak gimmick at this point, and he doesn't want to get in the ring with Braun, so he runs back up the ramp. Braun chases him down, gets him in the ring, and then gets him out the ring. Also, Michael Cole keeps on shouting, "See ya, bye," whenever someone's eliminated, and it's so smug and annoying. And oh my, I've knocked over the lads. Sorry, lads. Robert Lashley is out next. He's way too hyped up for some reason. Like, he's moving way too fast in there. Kind of like Shane McMahon when he's all, and he scoops up Elias, drops him, trying to give him a sidewalk slam, and just kind of goes plop. And that's the move that leads to Elias being eliminated from this match after being made to look so strong, which is very, very unfortunate. Braun and Lashley have a big boy battle for a little bit, but then Bryan flies back into the action to remind us that I'm the number one entrant, I'm still involved, and look at the state of his chest. What happened to cause that? All I can remember is a bit of a chop exchange with Roderick Strong earlier in the bout. Does Roddy Strong have the most lethal chops in Maybe. Entrant number 45, and oh no, it's the Great Khali. I would love to go back to 2018 and see how many people were genuinely concerned that he was going to win this thing live, because I wouldn't bet against it. I probably was. Anyway, those fears are laid to rest as Khali gets in the ring, dishes out a few big overhead chops, and then gets tipped out by the combined efforts of Braun and Lashley. Job well done. Alright, 5 entrants to go, we can do this. The next one is Kevin Owens, followed by the man he was feuding with not too long ago. Ching ching, bling bling, dollar dollar. It's Shane McMahon. Remember what I said about Lashley and being all way too hyped? Shane obviously just starts peppering Kevin Owens, who I think legitimately covers up, and who could blame him? Shane then teams up with Daniel Bryan to lay in some yes kicks on Kevin Owens, because the most important part, once again, of Daniel Bryan's return is that we all know and understand that he and Shane McMahon are best friends and on the same level. Number 48 is Shelton Benjamin, and everybody gangs up on Strowman again, and he's going to do the big explosion spot again, which is bad news for number 49, Big Cass, because he slides in the ring just as Braun goes, "Braun," and everyone flies, and it leads to Big Cass falling over, looking quite silly. And he goes on to play quite an important role in the end game here. It's messy, but this match, nay, this show has been messy. Come on, we're nearly at the finish line. My thighs are cramping up, okay? Just to no, we can do this. Shane gets his stuff in now, big coast to coast, and we await the arrival of our final entrant. It's Chris Jericho, or should I say Christmas Jericho, because look at that fancy ring attire, it's a bit crap. Kevin Owens is shocked that his former best friend and now bitter enemy is back, shouting at him, "Go back to Japan." That's because, like Rey Mysterio, Jericho had a very weird 2018. He was, of course, in Japan wrestling Kenny Omega famously at that Wrestle Kingdom, came back to WWE for this event, went back to Japan to wrestle Tetsuya Naito, then was part of All In, making a shock appearance, then was of course a crucial part of AEW's formation and its first champion and all that. So on one hand you could say that Kevin Owens' confusion is understandable. On the other hand, he was going to face Undertaker in the casket match before Rusev was put back in, so you knew he was around, Kev. Anyway, Jericho gets in, runs wild, eliminates Shelton, and then we get the scariest and worst moment of the match. Bobby Lashley, who is having a bad time, I think, in this one, almost ends Big Cass's career with a vertical suplex gone very wrong. So wrong that Corey Graves is forced to call it a brainbuster on commentary. Somehow, Big Cass is okay. Bryan urges Shane to go for another coast to coast. Shane gets up all weak and unsteady, but so brave though, and he gets cut off by Braun, who launches him to the outside through an announce table. I'm like, you know what? Good moment. Strowman also eliminates Lashley and Jericho, and I'm like, hold on. Braun's eliminating babyfaces as well now. The only heels we've got left are Kevin Owens and Big Cass. Now, Kevin Owens, great heel. I don't know if he necessarily feels like the final boss at the end of a grueling Royal Rumble kind of heel. Whereas Big Cass kind of does. Which is weird because we've already seen a lot of the big names in this Rumble come and go, and yet Big Cass is getting the big featured heel role. It's an odd decision. Until you remember that Cass was being pushed around this time and would go on to have like a weird feud with Daniel Bryan. Weird, I say, because it ended very abruptly and he was gone from WWE shortly afterwards. So yeah, that's what Cass was up to at this time. It's really good, legitimately good to see how much he's kind of turned things around for himself these days. But in this match, we're kind of speed running the final stages all of a sudden because Strowman eliminates Kev, but then almost gets tipped out by Bryan. Uh-oh. Suddenly, we are down to the final three. Bryan, Braun, and Cass. Make that the final two, though, because Cass throws out number one entrant, Bryan Danielson, after 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 5 seconds. Yes, that is a record. More on the records after the match. Final two, then, and Vince McMahon has got to be happy because it's two very tall men. They go back and forth for a little bit, and Cass misses a big boot, and his leg goes over the top rope, and he's over the top of the top rope. And oh, did you forget this was like a glorified house show? Because the finish to the final match of our 5-hour pay-per-view involves Braun Strowman grabbing the ropes and going, way, and Cass is like, oh no, my bows. Strowman hits the ropes, charges at Cass, whose bows are really hurt. One big shoulder block, Cass falls to the outside, and Braun Strowman is the winner of the Greatest Royal Rumble. The best one. The greatest one ever. Not 92, not 01. This one. Greatest Royal Rumble. We get a big trophy presentation and the Greatest Royal Rumble Championship belt as well. And Vince is in there. Look at him. Everyone's happy. Jesus Christ. Fireworks go off. And once again, the trophy was broken very shortly after this and would never be seen again. And Strowman was never once referred to, I believe, as the Greatest Royal Rumble Champion in the aftermath of this event. So yeah, Greatest Royal Rumble, man. Oh, the records. So two of the most important Rumble records are the longest time spent in a single Rumble and the most eliminations in a single Rumble. And WWE, quite foolishly in my opinion, broke both of those here. Because I mean, even if you don't count this as a proper Royal Rumble, it still means there's always an asterisk there. So yeah, Daniel Bryan's 1 hour 16:05 stint did eclipse the 1 hour 2 minute 12 mark set by Rey Mysterio in 2006. And as of this video being recorded, Bryan's record still stands today. I'm very surprised they haven't tried to break it, considering he's now an AEW guy. And maybe they'll want to move the record back onto a normal run. Oh, Sammy's gonna break it, isn't he? Or someone. I don't know. I called it if it happens. And Braun Strowman notched 13 eliminations in his winning effort here, breaking the record of 12 set by Roman Reigns in 2014. It has since been equaled by Brock Lesnar's 13 eliminations in 2020, but not broken yet. And once again, I'm quite surprised. But sadly, what I'm not surprised about is the fact that WWE's partnership with Saudi Arabia continues to grow stronger and stronger every year. We, of course, are getting the 2026 Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia and the 2027 WrestleMania as well. So, fun. Thank you all very much for watching. This will almost certainly be the longest video I have done so far, which is an energy-draining thought. But don't you worry, there's plenty more content coming up as well. Not only Very Weird Wrestling Episodes 2, I've started to do other stuff on this channel. Here's an example of that here somewhere. Check out patreon.com/JackTheJobber if you want to support the channel as well. That would be much appreciated. And yeah, like, share, and subscribe, all that sort of YouTubery stuff. And I will catch you later on. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack the Jobber, and I'll see you very soon.